Forged. Tristan, where? Tristan, where? A mechanical voice said. I stood on my porch watching what appeared to be a mechanical man made by a child who ate too much pizza. The man's rotund torso was covered by a t-shirt with a pizza slice on it, that only stretched to his midriff. Remarkable, he was trying to eat the black mist as it bombarded him with sharp daggers, shards, and spears. The robot wore plastic sunglasses that covered its beady eyes. For some reason, it had a red hue about his face and a black mark at the center of his forehead. I looked at Mortimer, who shook his head. Hamish sauntered onto the porch. Hamish, this is new, I said. Hamish looked at me. Oh, I said. He entered the house, heading for the staircase. The robot walked around the mist, still trying to eat it. Hello, I said, walking towards him. The mechanical man turned to me. He stopped, still. Eyes on me. Madam, Tristan where? He said. Come in. The lounge is to your left. He watched me. I will show you Tristan, please, I said. The mechanical man watched me for a while. He moved like a huge toddler navigating the 3 steps to my home. I watched him pass the entrance and stop. After a moment, he turned left into the lounge. I followed and sat down in my armchair. Mortimer was already in his usual spot. He watched the mechanical man as he stood by the chair, eyes on me. The man sat down on the armrest, sliding off it into the chair with a crack. Tristan where? I leaned forward and observed the mechanical being. Yes, he does have a faint sphere, but it's fading. Madam, Tristan where? The man said. I looked at Hamish, who returned my gaze. Tristan. Tristan, I said. Hello. I heard a boy's voice come from the waiting room. I looked at the mechanical man. Excuse me, I'll be back in a second, I said to the mechanical man, who appeared mesmerized by the fireplace. I got up and left the room, walking across the hallway to the waiting room. Mortimer followed me. We both entered the room to find it had transformed into a typical basement used to store spare goods. A 9-year-old boy in a t-shirt that was identical to the one the mechanical man wore stood there with plastic sunglasses perched on his head. He looked well kept, with the exception of a deep burn mark on his forehead, dead center, as if he wore a black dillock. His torso chubby, his feet covered by socks. Mortimer went over to him. Hello, boy, Tristan said. Mortimer licked him, making him laugh. Hello, Tristan. Do you mind if we sit down? Sure, Tristan said. He sat down on the floor next to a large chair. I sat down beside him, placing my cane to the side as I crossed my legs. Mortimer sat beside Tristan, who stroked him. Tristan, do you remember who sat in that chair behind you? He nodded. I made him to help my mum around the house, but he doesn't really work. I gazed at Tristan. A part of his sentience was missing, his fear. Soul, if you like, was faint when it should be vibrant. Do you remember what happened the last time you were in this room? I said. Tristan looked at Mortimer. I remember. I was hungry. Mum had ordered some pizza, but it wasn't here yet. I was fixing the robot's compartment where all the trash would go in after he's eaten it. I plugged him in when I heard the doorbell. The man called my mum, Madam. That's funny, Tristan giggled. I had forgotten how powerful a child's giggle can be. The sound struck deep within me, making me smile. My mum called me. I got up quickly, but something came through the window. It hit me here, when I was pulling the panel back on the robot. Tristan touched the burnt mark on his forehead. A vajra, a lightning bolt, cut your life short. It fused a little piece of you in your invention. That piece of you is trying to get back to the rest of you. Be whole again. A law of the universe, my young guest, I said. What shall I do now? Tristan said. Come with me. I stood up. Tristan and Mortimer followed me into the lounge. The man was still sat there watching the fire. Tristan, the man stopped mid-word. The burnt mark on his forehead glowed as a tiny amber speck exited from it, floating towards Tristan, who reached out his fingers. The speck touched his fingers and vanished. Ah, Tristan breathed in. Better? I said. Tristan nodded. What will happen to him? Tristan said, pointing to the man. You blessed him, Tristan. Don't worry. He has started his journey, I said. Mortimer will escort you to the waiting room. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, bye, Tristan said. Farewell, little one. I touched my heart and gave Tristan a gentle nod. Tristan followed Mortimer into the waiting room. I turned to the lifeless man in the armchair. He turned and looked at me. This was not a haunting, rather just embers of a soul having possessed matter for a little while. Those embers will fade, eventually, and then he will become still again, lifeless. I gripped my cane. Focusing my mind, the ruins along the stem ignited blue fire. Slam! I dug the tip of my cane into the mechanical man's torso. He melted instantly. I twisted my cane. Focus, deep, reciting a mantra. The goo solidified into a piece of rock that could fit in my palm. It had a faint glow about it, the embers of Tristan's soul. I picked up the rock and left the room. Turning left, I walked past the staircase and stopped at the first door on the left. Opening it, I entered a vast, lush valley in the Himalayas. It reminded me of a meadow I once knew. I strode towards the river. Moving down the gentle slope to the riverbank, I placed the rock beside several other rocks that looked similar to it. Here, you have a chance of gaining sentience. Deities walk here, and when it is time, one of them will breathe life into you, and you can continue your journey. I touched my heart and gave a gentle bow to the rock, then turned and returned to the door where Mortimer was waiting for me. We returned to the lounge. I sat down and took a sip of single malt whiskey that was waiting on the table for me. A vajra hitting Tristan and the mechanical man was not an accident. It was time for basic material to be brought to life. A way to achieve this was to let it house a piece of sentience for a while. You might think Tristan is a victim in all this. I would disagree, as that was his time to progress on his own journey, according to his karma. Tristan wanted to bring a robot to life, and he did. Just not in the way he expected. But he did nonetheless. Checks and balances is how the universe works. As for the mechanical man, he will have to wait until a deity decides to breathe life into him again. Why wait? Well, he owes a debt already. You see, before Hamish found him, the mechanical man was eating everything on his way to find Tristan. He came across a van selling burgers and pizza. He ate the van, but he also ate the human inside it. This cannot go without comment. Checks and balances. You settle the payment for what you do. It is really that simple. Be mindful before you act, or you will pay for it, one way or another. Until next time, see you next Sunday at 11. Stay safe. Don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.